want to talk about something that I call fundamental freedom. I don't think it's an original idea to me, but it's something I've been playing with a lot recently. The essence is this: in each moment, I and you and everybody is fundamentally free to do whatever they want. Part of what that freedom means is, part of what it means to be fundamentally free to do what you want is that you are free to do whatever you want and deal with the consequences of doing what it is that you want, which is of course going to affect what you want. We sometimes like to think that freedom would be doing what we want and having no consequences, or doing what we want and having only certain kinds of consequences. And that's something that we might want, and that there is a kind of freedom that is that, in terms of having permission from somebody to do something. But even if you don't have permission from somebody to do something, you are fundamentally free to do the thing that you have been forbidden to do and deal with whatever consequences occur as a result, whatever punishment they might mete out, or in some sense fundamentally free to do it and to hide or try to avoid whatever the consequences so might be if you were found. And this is relevant in relation to both internal coercion and external coercion, because we often feel like we're not free in relation to sort of things we feel we have to do that aren't necessarily because somebody else will punish us per se. Nobody else has necessarily told us we have to do them, although in some cases that's what's going on. But you might think like, oh, like I have to do this, this project, It's like, well, what if you didn't? Well, then I get fired. And so, well, okay, you could get fired. You're free to get fired. Well, then my friends would hate me, or my parents would think that I was, well, maybe they wouldn't, but suppose that they would. You're free to accept those consequences if you want to. Even more fundamentally than that, not even involving so much of the human domain. It's like, oh, or the social domain. It's like, oh, I have to, take out the trash or something. It's like, well, what if I didn't? Then I would have trash building up in my apartment. I don't want that. I want it to be out. And insofar as it is in fact the case that nobody else is going to do that, I want to do it. And, I have to pay my power bill. Well, no, I could sit around in the dark, but I'd get bored of that pretty quickly, and then I'd want to pay my power bill. And so there's a way in which this move from allowing yourself to accept the possibility that you might not do something can highlight the sense in which you really want to do that something. And in some cases the consequences are so obvious, like not paying your power bill, that it's like, yeah, of course I want to do this. That's why I felt a have to around it in the first place. But the have to energy can get in the way of that intrinsic motivation. It becomes a have to because otherwise I'll feel bad. But the feeling bad is not even about the power not being on, right? It's some extra feeling that is not intrinsically the reason to do it. And so by tapping this fundamental freedom, by realizing that ultimately in each moment, you don't have to finish listening to what I'm saying right now. You could listen to it on 2x speed, or you could jump back to the beginning, or you could jump back 20 seconds if you're like, wait, hang on, I was tuning out. Like, there is a kind of default trajectory that things will follow. You might have some sense of what usually happens when you watch a video. You watch it till the end, and you don't have to. Yeah. So really feeling that in every moment. You're out walking. You could turn around and walk the other way. You're on your way to a party. You could turn around and not go. You're at a party. You could leave. You're at home hanging out doing something random. You could go for a walk like right now. You know, if you're sitting in a car watching this or something, like you could be like, "Stop the car! I'm getting out now." That might be a really dumb idea, but you could do it. Again, you would deal with the consequences of doing that, and a lot of times, the reason you're not doing things is because the consequences wouldn't be what you want. So of course you're not doing them. But you are ultimately free to do those things, and feeling in touch with that, getting in touch with that in each moment, I have found to be very liberating, because ultimately it is this sense of being fundamentally free.